Good evening, my intercultural communication classmates. My name is Nashawn Brown. I'm going to be giving you guys a quick briefing on the language that I chose to do research behind. I chose to do my research on the French language. So first, we're going to go over the learning objectives. So learning objectives, we're going to talk about the phonology of it, the semantics and syntactics. Then we're going to talk about the difficulties behind speaking a different language or trying to pronounce a different language to somebody else who doesn't speak the same language, obviously. So those are going to be the learning objectives. All right, so moving on to the phonology. So the history behind the French language, it is a Latin-derived language. The pronunciations have changed from Old French to Middle French and then to Modern French. So that actually over time, starting at about 1100 AD, you have the pronunciations or the phonology of Old French, which essentially takes some of the Roman language actually, and they change some of the phonetics and the phonics in the language, and then of course it morphs again as the French culture obviously changes with time through the many wars that the French have been in, being that they are Anglo-Saxon culture, right? With the many encounters they've had with mixing of cultures, right? When the Romans took them over before 1100 AD. And then obviously you have the French going with the English, having their little bouts with the English and other European nations. You start seeing some phonetics intermingle, some intermingling of cultures in between there. So from 1100 AD to about 1500 AD, you have the Old French phonetics, and then Middle French, 1500, all the way through to about 1800, and then from 1800 to 2000 you have your Modern French phonetics, which are obviously what they're speaking today, 2000s and up. It's been truly adaptive, truly transformed over time, which is what you would expect from any culture as they intermingle with other cultures and have different interactions with different cultures. We're going to move on now to semantics and syntactics. So I'm going to go over a couple of words that I learned when trying to learn how to speak French. I'm going to do some basic numbers, and they will sound somewhat similar to what the American culture is, because the American culture, we do utilize a lot of different languages in our pronunciations of words and use of vowels and letters, right? So I'm going to go over letter 1, which would be un. So it's actually spelled U-N-E. But it's not spelled. We don't, obviously in America we say one, but it's un, and then 2, de, and then 3 would be trois. So instead of saying, so in other words, with their letters and their vowels, when they say something, they actually, it's more of a roll, right? But the letter is not actually it's not said as pronounced as Americans would say it. So instead of saying 3 and actually using the T, right, they would just say trois, right? So some of those vowels, like the I, so the way it's spelled for 3, for in the French language is T-R-O-I. So it would be essentially the O and the I are silent, right? So it's not like they're actually saying, the way Americans would say, a word, we would say that we would actually utilize the vowels throughout the saying of the word. Or for example, telephone, we say just telephone, right? They actually say the E. They say telephone. And the E at the end of the word is spelled the same as the American language, but the end of the word is actually silent, right? So those are a couple of words when you talk about French semantics and syntactics and how it may differ from the English language. You can clearly tell that we do borrow some of their wording, but not the way it is spelled, right? But we borrow some of the meanings from the French culture. So now moving on to difficulties, dealing with different languages. Difficulties. I have a coworker right now who speaks French fluently, but when he starts speaking English, he just recently said the word, so the name Aristotle. We actually pronounce in America, Aristotle, right? Those vowels actually get utilized. He's used to not using all his vowels. So just recently we were talking at the little cubicle, and he said Aristotle. He literally skipped the vowels. he said Aristotle, literally, not that fast, but he was trying to say it, but he couldn't get the vowels to stretch, right? So I had to, obviously I was correcting him just to be nice, but I said Aristotle. He was like, yeah, Aristotle. I was like, yeah. He said Aristotle, right? So obviously with dealing with different languages, you could have a lack of confidence when speaking with others because you're kind of unsure. Okay, am I saying this word right? Are they gonna look at me crazy? Are they gonna look at me look at me funny, judge me? Because in America we can be judgmental. So those are one of the biggest difficulties you could have, right? And me and him talk about it all the time. But my sources for this briefing that I'm giving are selfgutenberg.org, Phonological History of French, and the joint knowledge online, which is through the Army. They actually allow you to learn any language you want. So thank you for listening to the presentation. Have a great day. Bye-bye.